Hi, Kirk.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm not doing too bad. Thanks for picking up that guitar.
I was really surprised to see it here in the studio, and so how can I resist?
As soon as I saw it, I said, you can just keep that in your hand the whole time, you know? What was the first horror film that scared you as a kid?
Probably the very first one I saw, which was Day of the Triffids. It was a British film, and I was 5 years old, and it just felt like nothing else I'd seen, content-wise. Anywhere. I was raised on cartoons and Walt Disney films, and then all of a sudden, just randomly, I'd found this movie on television, and it was Day of the Triffids, and I saw it, and the feeling I got from it was very unique and exciting, and I just wanted more.
Guillermo del Toro told me a story about that, like, because he was such a kid. I know you guys are buds, and I saw you guys tweeting at each other the other day. But because he was not old enough to watch it, it felt like something like that was forbidden to him. You know, horror films were. It felt like something he wasn't supposed to see. You know, maybe you weren't supposed to see it.
There was a big there was a big sort of influence in my house that was against horror films, and that was because there was a religious sort of undercurrent.
Catholic?
And yes, Catholic.
Yeah.
And and I went to Catholic school, and so there was a lot of pushback. Not really from people in my family, but from the nuns at school, because there were more than a few times I got caught in class reading monster magazines or comic books. And I remember very specifically being held after class because I got caught reading a monster magazine. And okay, granted, on the cover was this guy, and I mean, half his face was falling off. But still, it was, it was quite a spectacle at the school. And I remember the nun saying that she was going to call my parents and speak to my mom. And as soon as she said that, I just got such a sigh of relief, going, "Thank God," because my mom was totally. She didn't care if I watched horror movies, read comic books, went to the movie theater to watch, crazy movies. She just had enough faith in me just to know that, I would just, I was all the better for it, actually. And it was just comical because the whole Christian thing and Catholicism, it kind of influenced a lot of how and why I like horror films.
Is it because horror is the opposite of the Bible stories, which are all very sunny and very positive, or is it that if you really think about it, the Bible is the story of a guy rising from the dead?
Both, actually.
Yeah.
But then I have a rebellious nature, and
No.
and so I was very conflicted as a kid when it came to just religion as a whole, and I thought, well, if there's God, why is there Satan? And then later on, I realized, well, there needs to be Satan, the whole black and white yin and yang thing, but then I thought, wow. If there is a God, there's Satan, and I'm sure that, he's just lurking right around the corner. And so when a movie like The Exorcist came out, it was shocking to me because it was everything that I'd learned in Catholic school, all the worst things that I'd learned about being a Christian, up on the screen right there happening to someone, a child who was, pretty much the same age as I was.
Right.
And, yeah, it was just funny how much of an influence that was and is now to this day, because I love horror movies that are based around that kind of theme, God, religion, cults, demonology.
Yeah.
I prefer horror movies that have that kind of theme, or the paranormal, or real monsters, as opposed to graphically violent films. I'm not a big fan of that type
Slasher
of film.
kind of things,
Yeah,
yeah,
and, you
yeah.
know, and I'm really open and about that too. I prefer stuff that's more based in the fantasy realm rather into the graphically exploitive realm.
So like, when does this start? Like, does it start the horror movie poster collecting? Is it that like, oh, you buy one and, oh yeah, I got one now, this is nice, and then the next thing you know, I know people who like collect wine right like this. You know, I have one nice bottle, and the next thing you know, you have like 200 nice bottles.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess you have a buddy who knows about that. Yeah. But like, is it like the same kind of thing for you? Like you had one or two.
Yeah.
You had one or two posters.
Yeah, it would have been great if I could actually do what you just described. When I got my first like really great piece, which was the Bride of Frankenstein half sheet, I thought, wow, yeah, I'm gonna go out and buy 200. But the fact of the matter is, I later found out that this stuff is so rare.
Yeah.
That it's a big waiting game. You have to wait for the opportunity to buy some of this stuff. And what that means is, the stuff that needs to be found, or it needs to be pried out of some other collector's hands, or there's a dealer who has it and knows you want it, and usually the question is, well, what's in your collection, and so it's
Is it also that, like, I know you're in Metallica, so I'm going to give you the guy in Metallica price?
well, up until like the late '80s, that wasn't so much of a factor,
Right.
But there's something I call celebrity tax.
Yeah.
It just comes along with just being that, and so I have people who are out there actively looking for posters for me and negotiate on my behalf, and then later on I'll come in and insert myself into the deal.
Can we look at a couple of posters together?
Absolutely.
Cool. So we're on the radio and on TV. So can you take a look at that and tell me what we're looking at right now?
Oh, this is great, and it's such a pleasure to see this. Okay, so the Gorgon was actually the very, very, very first movie poster that I had gotten, and I had kind of gotten it as a fluke because I was buying a bunch of old monster toys from the '60s, and the guy threw in this movie poster as part of the deal. And when I put it up on the wall, I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe how great it's incredible. It's such a strong image, and it brightened up the room for me. And I thought to myself, wow, that's just really great, and it looked great amongst my toys, and it kind of like, it cracked the door open, but it was that Bride of Frankenstein half sheet that really just blew the doors way open.
Right.
But I mean, to speak about this, we're looking at a Gorgon one sheet, the Hammer film Gorgon, and it's spectacular because, you have this central image of this woman with the snakes coming out of her head, and her victims who are turned to stone all around her, and then in shocking yellow at the bottom, the Gorgon. And it's such an exciting movie poster. There's a lot going on here. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're seeing like 10 or 12 scenes from the movie just by looking at this poster.
So could I give you one more?
Yeah.
Okay, actually got a couple more. How about this one?
Oh, this is the one that really just like. Okay, so when I first started collecting, I would sit around and daydream about posters that I wish I could find, and it's really like just kind of like wishing for a certain color unicorn to show up, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty much the same thing.
I like that a lot. You're not just waiting for a unicorn, you're waiting for a certain color of unicorn.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
Yeah, and so, for years I thought, wow, it'd be great if I had a Frankenstein 3-sheet. It looked so great next to one of my favorite posters, the Mummy 3-sheet. And then lo and behold, a couple years ago, I got word that a Frankenstein 1-sheet or a 3-sheet was found, I believe, here in Canada. A lot of movie posters are found here in Canada. And it was found in a room that had been boarded up. Someone just took down a door or wall or whatever, walked into the room, and there it was on the wall.
This Frankenstein
this
poster.
Particular Frankenstein poster. And what a find that must have been. I mean, I wish I would have been there. It's like, it's like finding a gold vein or something.
Yeah, it's like Raiders of the Lost Ark, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
it's you find something of extreme value. I'm sure the person wasn't looking for it when they found it. But this poster is great because I love that the monster's head is just glowing red and it's really, really large. If you see this movie poster in person, it's breathtaking because of the scale of it, and you really get a feeling that Karloff's monster is a big hulking creature, and there's a slight outline of his shoulders, and it looks like he's leaning over this woman. Whereas that isn't really the case in the movie, but it's super ominous, and really the scale of it you get from the poster.
I should be clear about one thing. So when Kirk refers to a 3-sheet, I just learned this the other day, but these posters were done. It's a very old-fashioned, very amazing artisanal kind of way, using lithographs, and the lithograph stone was only so big, right? So you'd be able to do 1 sheet per lithograph stone. So what they did was they would do 3 sheets, 3 lithographs.
Right.
Kind of put them together to make one big poster, which I believe is what this one is too.
Yes,
this is my favorite one in the exhibition.
Yeah, it's my favorite as well. One of my favorites.
That's the Karloff.
Yeah, the Mummy
the
3-sheet. And this image is the image I put on a guitar back in like 1995. That's how much I like it. And this picture. This poster, when I stand in front of it, I'm amazed at how luminous it is. There's a lot of light coming out of it, and the graphic of Karloff's head glowing in these fiery colors it's beautiful. It's really breathtaking to see in the flesh. And this particular poster came from Sweden, of all places. When I had first gotten it and I unrolled it on the floor, I laid it out on the floor. I was just struck on just how amazingly rich and pure the colors still are. This poster was printed in 1932. And the colors are just as rich as they've ever been.
Thank you for that, by the way. Mm-hmm. When I was looking at the posters in the exhibit, I began to notice a bit of a trend, which is that I could see the development of cinema and the development of America through the posters. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Because I think these posters speak to more than just the aesthetic value to you.
Yeah, they are a kind of a barometer of what whatever society was going through at any particular point in time. A lot of the movie posters from the 40s changed. Their tone changed incredibly. They became more formulaic. They started using more blues and yellows and greens almost exclusively, and they became very, very muted. And I think a lot of that was because the studios just wanted to play down the horror aspect because there was a war going on, and there was just horror. There's other horrors in the world to think about, and so horror movies weren't as popular during that time. But in the 50s, when the whole Red Scare, communism, in general, just like xenophobia was kind of rampant in culture, the movie posters reflected that, and there was a lot of movies that were about invasions, alien invasions, creature invasions, being taken over by some force that was just unstoppable and unseeable. Mm-hmm. And so, that's a good example of just what the cultural fears were at the time, and a lot of these movies kind of portrayed that, displayed that, and seeing these movies kind of were therapeutic to people.
I was reading that the only 2 other people in the music industry that shared the same passion as you for horror was Lou Reed from the
Yes.
Velvet Underground.
Yes.
Johnny Ramone from the Ramones.
Yes.
What do you think it is about? I mean, these are also people I'd associate with a certain darkness. Same with your music. Is there something about horror and metal, horror and punk
Well,
that goes well together?
It's the dark side of life. It's what Baudelaire wrote about in his poems. You know, it's what Edgar Allan Poe experienced and then wrote in his stories and poems. Heavy metal and horror, they're really good at capturing the dark emotions. You know, the darker emotions that everyone experiences in life. A good heavy metal song has a lot of the same ingredients that a good horror movie has. You know, intensity, drama, feeling of suspense, you know, aggression, release of aggression, energy, adrenaline, sense of relief, and then afterwards just total satisfaction and yeah, let's do it again. You know.
Is there a white whale? Something you've been looking for you haven't been able to get your hands on?
Yeah, you know, there was Edgar Allan Poe, a movie made called Murders in the Rue Morgue, 1932, Bela Lugosi, and I've been looking for a one sheet from that movie for forever and ever. I know a guy who has one in L.A., but it's not going anywhere. It's locked up in his collection.
Come on, man. Come on,
Yeah,
man.
I've been trying for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's one I don't have anything on that movie, Murders in the Rue Morgue, of significance. And so I've been looking for a one sheet or insert or a half sheet or just anything, and it just hasn't shown up, you know, for whatever reason.
Cool. Well, thanks a lot for coming in.
Oh, thank you.